All right, strap in, everyone. Let's dive deep into the Roman Empire. Intrigue, ambition, power struggles, and even a bit of early Christianity. We're zeroing in on Emperors Claudius and Nero, two rulers who really left their mark on European history and, of course, its military landscape.
Yeah, it's incredible how these emperors' personal lives, their hunger for power, even a massive fire in Rome, shaped military tactics and politics for centuries to come.
Right, it's wild. Okay, so Claudius, not exactly known as Rome's strongest leader, right?
Right.
But then he marries Agrippina the Younger, a woman with ambition that could put out a volcano. Her one goal, get her son Nero on that throne, no matter what.
Oh, Agrippina was a strategic mastermind. She played the Roman succession game like a pro, knew exactly how to manipulate the system.
Oh, she absolutely did. She gets Claudius to adopt Nero, completely bypassing his biological son. Talk about a power move. Then things get really shady. Claudius drops dead after a suspicious mushroom meal, served by, surprise, surprise, Agrippina.
Yeah, I mean, historians can't say for sure, but most accounts point right at Agrippina. It shows just how far ambition could push people in ancient Rome, especially with the throne up for grabs.
Exactly. So a 17-year-old Nero becomes emperor. You'd think a teenager running one of the most powerful empires would be a disaster waiting to happen. But Nero's early reign actually had some surprisingly good parts.
Yeah, you're right. Nero's early actions are so interesting. Like, was he truly for the people, or was he putting on a show to cement his power? Public works projects, training with his soldiers, judicial reforms, the whole 9 yards.
He even got rid of court fees and opened up trials to the public. More transparency and access to justice. And hold on to your helmets, he regulated lawyer fees so even the poorest Romans could afford legal help. Makes you wonder how much have our own legal systems actually changed when it comes to real justice for everyone.
It's a good question. But, even with all these seemingly good deeds, it could have been a clever political tactic. Appeal to the masses, keep the Senate off his back, build power outside his mother's control.
Ah, but there's the catch. Agrippina, the one who built him up, wasn't about to just disappear. She kept pushing her influence, and that led to a power struggle that would make even a gladiator nervous.
That clash between them is a classic Roman story. Emperors constantly battling with powerful figures for control. It affected everything: internal politics, military decisions, the stability of the whole empire.
And let me tell you, things got brutal. First, Nero's stepbrother, the one Agrippina was grooming as a potential replacement, mysteriously dies at a banquet. Then, Nero accuses his own mother of treason and orders her assassination. Power in ancient Rome. Definitely not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, you said it. That was a turning point for Nero. No more mom, no more restraint. He became unpredictable, even tyrannical. That change in him would have massive consequences for Rome's military campaigns, how they governed the provinces, basically everything.
Yeah, with Agrippina out of the picture, Nero's reign takes a nosedive. He gets more and more erratic, clamps down even harder, and that throws everything into chaos, including how the Roman military operates and their strategies. And then, boom, the event that links Nero's name forever with persecuting the early Christians, the Great Fire of Rome, 64 AD. Picture it as bustling megacity, the heart of this huge empire, up in the flames.
The fire raged for days, wiped out entire districts, left a permanent mark on the city. And for Nero, it was a political disaster. He desperately needed someone to blame someone to take the heat so he could hold on to power.
And who does he pick? The Christians. This relatively new religious group, already viewed with suspicion and misunderstood by most Roman society. Why them?
Well, for one thing, they were an easy target. Their belief system with a single god went totally against Roman polytheism. They didn't participate in Roman religious rituals, and their communities were seen as secretive, possibly even rebellious. Nero played on those existing prejudices to save himself.
Wow, so he blames them for the fire and unleashes this wave of persecution. Christians are arrested, tortured, even executed in these gruesome public spectacles as a warning to anyone else thinking of stepping out of line. It's a dark reminder of what happens when power goes unchecked, cruelty and injustice.
But hold on, this is where it gets interesting. This persecution, horrible as it was, might have actually helped spread Christianity. I know it sounds crazy, but how do you think that could be?
Okay, yeah, you got me. How could such brutal persecution actually lead to the growth of the very faith it was trying to destroy?
Well, think about it. The resilience of those early Christians, their unwavering faith, even facing death, that was powerful. It was like a testament to what they believed. Their willingness to die for their faith inspired others and drew attention to their message.
So in a twisted way, Nero trying to wipe out Christianity might have made it stronger. That's a pretty intense
It
paradox.
really is. It shows the power of belief and how actions, especially those driven by fear and a need for control, can backfire spectacularly.
Okay, but before we get too far into how Nero's persecution impacted the growing Christian community, we need to understand the context of their faith. Where did this new religion come from? What are its origins?
To understand Christianity, we have to go back to the source. The story of Jesus, his teachings, his crucifixion under Pontius Pilate. It's a story that plays out against the backdrop of Roman rule in Judea, a region already on edge with religious and political tensions.
All right, so let's rewind the clock. We're in Judea, ruled by King Herod, appointed by the Romans. Then comes Jesus, a figure whose life and teachings become the foundation of a new faith that would eventually sweep across the Roman Empire and the world.
Right, and Jesus' message of love, forgiveness, compassion. It resonated with a lot of people, especially those marginalized by Roman society. His teachings challenged the existing religious and political order, and as he got more popular, both Roman and Jewish authorities started to get nervous.
So this carpenter from Nazareth preaching peace and love becomes a threat to the powers that be.
Yeah.
That's a recurring theme throughout history, right? The clash between those in power and those who challenge the system.
Exactly. Jesus' teachings, while seen by some as a path to spiritual enlightenment, were also seen as potentially disruptive by those in control.
And that tension ultimately leads to Jesus' arrest and trial before Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor of Judea. This is a pivotal moment in history, right? Roman law, Jewish religious authority, and the fate of a man whose teachings would spark a revolution of faith.
You said it. Pilate, under pressure from Jewish leaders and worried about potential unrest, ends up sentencing Jesus to death by crucifixion, a brutal end for a man who preached love and compassion, but also the beginning of something extraordinary.
Right, because his followers believe he rose from the dead 3 days later, solidifying their faith and inspiring them to spread his message. And it's this new faith still finding its place in the Roman world that Nero chooses to blame for the Great Fire.
A decision that would have a massive and lasting impact on both the Roman Empire and the future of Christianity.
So we've seen how Nero's persecution backfired. Instead of crushing Christianity, it might have actually helped it grow. It's kind of like proof that trying to control ideas, especially out of fear, can have the opposite effect.
Yeah, it's a pattern that pops up throughout history. Trying to suppress beliefs often just makes them spread even faster, like blowing on embers. The persecution of early Christians under Nero, that's a perfect example.
But how did all this early persecution, with Claudius and Nero's chaotic reigns thrown in, affect the bigger picture of European history, especially its military and political landscape? That's what I'm really curious about.
That's a great question. The Roman Empire back then was constantly dealing with power struggles inside and threats from outside. All that pressure really shaped their military, their strategies, and that influenced European warfare for centuries.
So the drama in the palace, Agrippina's scheming, the Great Fire, it all played a part in how Roman legions fought and conquered.
Absolutely. Keeping order in this massive empire, securing the borders, putting down rebellions, it all led to a seriously disciplined, adaptable military machine. Those Roman legions were famous for their organization, discipline, and tactical flexibility.
I've always been fascinated by Roman legions, their formations, their equipment, their siege warfare tactics,
Yeah.
so advanced for their time.
Oh, they were. Roman military engineers were masters of siege warfare. They developed all sorts of techniques and technologies to take down fortified cities, and the legions were trained to fight anywhere, adapt to any enemy tactics. That focus on adaptability and logistics would influence European military thinking for a long time.
So the Roman legions, forged in this intense environment of power struggles and constant war, they basically laid the groundwork for medieval armies and even modern ones.
In a lot of ways, yes. The Roman model, a professional standing army, with all that emphasis on discipline, training, and logistics, it provided a blueprint for future military organizations. It's there in how armies are structured, in military technology, everything.
Wow, that's incredible. Like those echoes we talked about, but these are echoes of marching boots and clashing swords.
Exactly. And it wasn't just the military. The rise of Christianity, even though they faced persecution, would completely change European politics and culture.
Right. We talked about how Nero's persecution might have actually spread Christianity. But how did it go from a persecuted group to the dominant force in Europe?
It's a complex story. But one key figure was Constantine the Great, a Roman emperor who converted to Christianity in the 4th century AD and made it the official religion of the empire.
So from hiding the shadows to the official religion of Rome, that's an incredible journey.
It is. And it had huge consequences. Constantine's conversion gave Christianity legitimacy, imperial support, and it just exploded across the empire. They built churches, integrated Christian teachings into Roman law and society.
Yeah.
It was the foundation for the Christianization of Europe.
It's amazing to think how all these seemingly separate things, personal ambition, a devastating fire, the persecution of a new faith, are all connected. They weave together to make history. It's a reminder that history isn't just one thing after another. It's a tapestry with all these threads influencing each other.
Exactly. And when we understand how those threads connect, when we dig into the complexities of the past, we really get a sense of how our world came to be.
That's what I love about history. It's not just dates and names. It's about understanding those forces, the decisions, the random events that shape everything. And sometimes, yeah, those courses are driven by ambition, by fear, by power. But they can also be driven by faith, by resilience, by the power of ideas. And that's what we've seen today as we explored the Roman Empire from Claudius to Nero, from power struggles to a devastating fire, and the rise of a new faith that would change the world. We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the past and that you'll continue to explore the fascinating and complex forces that have shaped the world we live in.
Well said. And as always, we encourage you to keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep uncovering the hidden connections that make history so captivating.